Hillary Clinton has solved global warming / climate change / global cooling and whatever else the propagandists want you to believe is going on with it. She has found out that MAGA Republicans are the ones who found the world thermostat and turned it up, she expresses in a tweet. So we'll talk about what's happening there, the reaction to that, and what we do with that. In other news, Obama's former chef is found dead near Martha's Vineyard. Now, the Obamas appear to be heartbroken, but of course this has raised some questions that have gone on with that, so we'll talk about the details, what's in there, what's being left out, and where we go from there. One of Hunter Biden's former associates and friends, Devon Archer, is set to testify in closed-door meetings with House GOP, possibly under oath, and is set to come back and tell us that, some of the business dealings were more shady than we thought that they were. And Commander Biden has bitten Secret Service more than 10 times. I guess I really can't blame him there, because I have a deep distrust of the government as well. It is going to be all of this and more. I was the one flying the balloons. I am J. Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is J. Edgar. We have got a buttload of stuff to go over here today. This was a busy news day today with a lot of stuff coming up here. Of course, we've got the climate change news because Hillary Clinton has solved climate change. We've got some layoffs, a very significant amount of layoffs coming in our layoffs report today. A lot of Biden news. There is a lot of stuff that has changed in the Biden world, and there are a lot of people that really don't want to believe that it's happening either, so we'll be talking about that. And Kevin McCarthy even coming down to say that he is going to probably look into articles of impeachment. Probably mostly because he is being threatened by the Freedom Caucus if he doesn't. And Ronnie James has actually suffered a cardiac arrest at practice. And I'm going to go back into, there's already been the talk of the holy jab. And we knew that was coming. Just like what happened with, I can't think of the guy's name, but the Bills player that got smacked in the chest. When everybody went straight to the holy jab right there. And again, it's a feasible connection to make, but we want to make sure that this guy is safe before we start arguing over medical intervention and what's happening there. So we'll be talking about that, and Elon even weighing in on this as well. Plus, an ex-ABC News reporter is facing 5 years for kitty porn. Surprise, surprise there. The Biden's dog is going nuts. Obama's chef. It's been a crazy day in the news today. I pulled a bunch of stuff off the stack just so, well, partially because it fit better on things I like and things that I hate, but just basically because this news stack was wild. I was joking in one of the Discord servers earlier, like, yeah, I've got 50 tabs to go through here, and then when I'm done with all that acid, I'm going to come back and read the news. But yeah, I didn't even count today, but I bet you there's a good 50 up there. So we got to get into it. We got to get started. So before we do, make sure you guys go check out great programming, such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys, Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, The No Gimmicks Podcast, Silent Caster, Clown World Chronicles with Papa Palpatine, and Overruled with KTZed. Go check out all that great programming as we aim to bring you a better news and culture experience from the common man for the common man. For too long, we have all got our news and culture from people who wear suits that cost more than our houses and people that hate us. Stop doing that. get your news from people who are just like you. So go check out all that great programming. It's going to be a great time. We will be going through the live chat as well as we go tonight. So if there's something that you want to talk about, something you want to get off your chest, I'd like it if you stayed on topic, but you don't have to. We will. I will sit here and react live if we've got something here. No big segment at the end, but we'll look and see what you guys have to say. And let's get in and get started here. And we're going to start with our finance segment on the Dow today. Whoops. If I can get the right scene. All right, let's have a look at what's going on with the Dow today. The Dow won again today, 12 straight days on the Dow for winning in one of the best weeks since. Well, honestly, I would probably say this is since, what did they say, 2018 or something? We'll see what's happening there. But the Dow did start out down today, so some of the futures are starting to get shaky as we see what's happening with that. The Dow ending the day at 35,438.07, breaking another record today, up to 35,527.57 on a 52-week high intraday today. But it does look like the futures are starting to taper off as we go, so this might be the last winning day. We will see what happens, and we will check in with the Dow tomorrow and see what goes on with that. Looking in at your Bitcoin, the Bitcoin is sitting at $29,210 and 60 US cents. It is looking up today, but very, very slightly. Only up $33 and 70 US cents. That's up 0.12% on the day after struggling with a roller coaster session that started out again down and rose throughout the day, intraday to the rest of the day. So that's what we see coming off your Bitcoin today. On your gas prices in the Madison area, before I tell you about Madison, I'll tell you locally where I live, which is I'm close to La Crosse right now, which is over on the west side of the state. And what I see over here is we jumped up to $3.59 today on gas. So we're up a little bit more than what the Madison area is doing, but we've got 350s jumping up on the east side of Madison, 350s on the west side with outliers at 330, 338. 340 entering the Isthmus, 330 on the Isthmus, and a 329 outlier on the east side. So a little bit of a mixed bag here today, but it does look like the majority of the area is going to start going up. These prices are not your local gas prices. Check your local listings to see, but do anticipate the fact that because gas is a globally traded commodity, you will probably see a similar rise to this based on where you were before. So that's what we see coming off of that. Let's grab one from our friends over at CNBC, our finance report today. Dow closes higher for 12th straight day, registers longest rally since February 2017, from Sarah Min and Hak-Yoon Kim. The Dow closed higher Tuesday, notching its longest winning streak in more than 6 years as traders weighed the latest earnings report. The Dow rose by 26.83 points, or 0.08%, to 35,430.07. It was the 12th positive session in a row for the 30 stock index, and its longest rally since February 2017. The S&P added 0.28 to 45,67.46. The Nasdaq advanced 0.61, which they had a lot of ground to cover over the last couple of days because the S&P and the Nasdaq both dropped over the last couple of days to 14,144.56. GM fell 3.5% even after the automaker hiked a full-year earnings guidance. Meanwhile, General Electric climbed nearly 6.3% on the back of stronger-than-expected revenue for the second quarter. Elsewhere, UPS fell 1.9% after it reached a tentative deal with Teamsters Union, avoiding a strike. That's on for tomorrow just because we had so much to go over today with the Biden stuff. But yes, UPS has got a tentative deal, so no strike. Woo. Meanwhile, Bank of California shares surged 11%, and PacWest Bancorp shares dropped 27%. A report from the Wall Street Journal citing people familiar with the matter said Bank of California is in advanced talks to buy PacWest. Wall Street is digesting results from the busiest stretch of earnings so far, with major tech names Alphabet and Microsoft set to report after the close. Nearly 130 S&P 500 companies have reported second quarter earnings thus far. Of those names, about 79% have exceeded analyst expectations, FactSet data shows, and that's after they laid a whole bunch of people off. Do keep that in mind. Investors are also awaiting the Federal Reserve's policy decision on Wednesday and will parse through Chair Jerome Powell's comments for his economic outlook. Investors are overwhelmingly betting the Fed will raise rates by a quarter percentage point. However, they are less certain about what policymakers will do in September. I will say probably another quarter point in September. We will see what happens with this, where this goes, and what we are doing as we look at this tomorrow. We do have a significant layoffs report here as well. Jefferson Health is your layoffs report today. And I chose Inquirer. I actually had WHYY, an NPR PBS affiliate out of Philadelphia, that was also reporting on this, but the Inquirer gave us a number. Jefferson Health is laying off 1% of its employees, or about 400 positions this week. From Harold Brubaker. Jefferson Health, the largest health system in the Philadelphia region by number of hospitals this week, is reducing its workforce by 1%, or about 400 positions, in a bid to curb its financial losses by eliminating duplication in the not-for-profit system that grew rapidly through acquisitions before the pandemic. The cuts are part of a plan to reduce costs by $300 million and concentrated in corporate and administrative positions. Jefferson CEO Joseph G. Caccioni said Monday in a statement emailed to the Inquirer that they included elimination of an unspecified number of vacant positions. This decision was not made lightly, and Jefferson is not alone in needing to make the challenging choice, Caccione said. But don't worry, the economy is fantastic, you guys. We're just laying off people for fun. It's still fantastic. Citing widespread financial pressures on health systems and universities, there are decreased patient volumes at the same time as double-digit increases in costs. Employees affected by the cuts will be told Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Jefferson's health system employs 42,000 people, according to its website. The layoffs come 4 months after Moody's Investor Services reduced Jefferson's credit rating by one notch, citing increased debt and industry-wide higher expenses that will make it hard for the health system based in Center City to rebuild cash reserves. The new rating of A3 is still strong, but it was Jefferson's second downgrade from Moody's since it embarked on a broad expansion from 2015 through 2021, growing from 3 to 18 hospitals and adding another university and a Medicaid insurance company. As Jefferson exploded in size during its years under former CEO Stephen K. Glasgow, its profitability weakened. Then the coronavirus pandemic hit. The accompanying higher costs for labor, pharmaceuticals, and other supplies saddled Jefferson and many other health systems nationwide with financial losses. Yeah, put that Obamacare in. Oh yeah, no, guarantee the government will pay for your insurance and your medical bills. That'll keep costs down. So, 400 people in the health system. I will weigh a guess here. They're not telling us in this article, and I don't believe they're telling us in the other article. But I believe that this is going to be all administrative staff. I don't think that this is going to be in-room care, so doctors or nurses. I think this is going to be your HR people, your administrative staff, your secretaries, and the people like that are going to be the ones who are affected by this. Yep, the jobs being eliminated are concentrated in corporate and admin roles. Jefferson Health declined an interview for the story, so it's a hard time to be an HR person, I can tell you that. Because that seems to be, again, who they keep going for first. Alright, let's start with the main news of the day. Let's close my DMs. So, CAP Action reporting, and this is from 4 days ago when they put this out. MAGA Republicans are pouring fuel on the climate crisis fire. Showing a Washington Post headline that says Phoenix hits record for 19th day of 110 plus degrees in a row with more ahead. CNN 39-day heat wave could last into August after smashing 2,300 plus records. CNBC, we're in uncharted territory. World records, hottest day ever for the third time in just 4 days. Forbes, July 4th was Earth's hottest day in over 100,000 years, breaking records for a second day in a row, which they have absolutely no way of measuring that. CBS NOAA, Earth just had the hottest June on record. Which again, One of the things that I can come out and say to this, and this was something that was discussed in one of the threads that was on this tweet, a quote tweet from this one, is I distinctly remember, and it was the end of the school year, I was in 7th grade at the time. I talked about this yesterday when we were talking about this. In May, so end of school year, we're still in school. Early May on top of that. We had a week of over 100 degrees. Midday. 104, 102, 100 even. Midday in the frozen tundra of Wisconsin. And that would have been in 1997, by the way. We're not even close to that here right now, in July. We have capped out at 98. So spare me some of the panic on this here. I understand that some of you are getting increased temperatures. It's the way the climate goes. And again, it's been pointed out that this has been, I said this yesterday, but this has been pointed out, this is one of the mildest summers in history, with the exception of a couple temperature spikes in the middle of it. But Hillary Clinton weighing in on this, saying, "Is it hot enough for you? Think a MAGA Republican, or better yet, vote them out of office." So there it is. Hillary Clinton has solved the climate crisis. It has nothing to do with pollution. It has nothing to do with smog and smoke, or what's coming out of China, or how dare you! It's those evil MAGA Republicans. They went out and they found the world thermostat and they just turned it up. That's got to be what it is, right? So just go back, find the world thermostat again, turn it down a few notches, and stop with the fear porn, for God's sake. Seriously, folks. But she got her own from this, and I know that this was probably highly botted. In fact, I'm actually a little bit curious as to what the ratio is. No, she actually got ratioed on this one. 29,000 comments versus 25.3 thousand likes. So they actually did manage to ratio this one. Fantastic. Good job, everybody. Sal the Agorist says, "Don't worry, Hillary. Where you're going, it's much hotter." With Dave Smith, the comic, saying, "I'm just going to refrain from commenting here. I like being alive." And Scott Pressler, "Do you feel the same when campaigning in a Boeing 737? In the words of Greta, how dare you?" Ah, that's funny right there. For those of you listening on the audio platform, we've got a Nissan Skyline with its 2 different sized taillights with the LEDs to the outside and the reverse lights in the middle, taking the place of Greta's eyes in a photo of Greta. Oh, that's fantastic. All right, from Fox News. Hillary Clinton shredded for tweet blaming MAGA Republicans for heat wave. She is broken, from David Rutz. Hillary's widely derided remarks blaming Republicans for the heat wave gripping the U.S. were indicative of a broken politician and a sore loser, outnumbered panelists said on Tuesday. Clinton went viral after blaming record temperatures in the U.S. on Republicans, tweeting, "Hot enough for you? Thank a MAGA Republican, or better yet, vote them out of office." Clinton's social media posts came in response to a tweet from a left-wing think tank Center for American Progress, which stated MAGA Republicans are pouring fuel onto the climate crisis fire. Outnumbered guest Lee Zeldin, the Republican who narrowly lost last year's New York gubernatorial race, said Clinton was seeking to further divide with the incendiary remark. She's broken, but what's crazy about this is how much of this is deliberate tactics to win political campaigns and get power. They need to divide people, Zeldin said. They need to fire up their base and getting them to blame the other side. You can never have a U.S. With this kind of approach. And if you're that passionate about climate change, then why aren't you talking about China and these other nations that ramp up emissions? She's been broken by the right, but a lot of this is deliberate as a tactic to gain more power, and that's the worst part of it, because it will continue to fracture our country. It actually will, too. The Faulkner Focus host Harris Faulkner noted Clinton made the term deplorables an infamous political phrase. Do you really think she cares? I'm not under this illusion that she cares about anyone other than herself, Faulkner said, and she doesn't, by the way. Fox News contributor Dr. Nicole Sapir agreed with Zeldin, adding, "It was disingenuous to fret over climate change without bringing up polluters like China and India. I'm tired of people in general politicizing everything from COVID to climate change to other things," she said. "Unless you're going to say in the same tweet that you want to call out China and India and many others, not just MAGA Republicans, because their fraction of the carbon emissions is much lower than the rest of the people that she continues to be soft on." So, very, very, very good points from Outnumbered. I can't believe I'm saying that about Fox News. That is cringe and a half, but regardless, there's some good points that were made into that. And a lot of the climate change, it's NIMBYist, to borrow a term from another creator. It's full-on NIMBYism. They don't care about the emissions because they know that it doesn't do anything to the climate. They pumped out a generation of school kids who believe that it's all about the emissions, it's all about the tailpipe, and it's all about the this and the all about the that and everything else. But that's simply not the case. Because again, if it was the case, they'd be doing more about some of our neighbors to the east who do a lot more polluting as they go. It's about making sure that the people that they're trying to divide stay at each other's throats, and people believe that they have to go back and live with less. No, we can't dairy farm because of the diesel and the cow emissions. They actually don't go with the diesel when they do dairy farming. It's all about the cow emissions. So go ahead and eat the bugs and blah-de-blah and things like that. We've actually got a little bit more on the climate before we go back and talk about Obama's former chef, which again, that was a carryover from yesterday, which we found on the stack. Like it was in the sidebar of a Hill article when we were looking through the news yesterday. And that is crazy in and of itself. I've been reading a little bit on that, but here's some more fear panic for you. South Florida, ocean temperature tops 101 degrees Fahrenheit, potentially a record. From Catherine Clifford. A buoy in Manatee Bay showed an ocean temperature reading of over 101 degrees on Monday night, the latest sign of record heat in coastal waters. The buoy is owned and operated by the Everglades National Park, part of the National Park Service, and the data from that buoy is recorded and distributed by the National Data Buoy Center, a division of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The temperature was recorded about 5 feet below the surface. Well, no shit it was 101 if it was only 5 feet below the surface. It's a critically hot reading for an ocean and especially concerning for the coral reefs in the area, which typically thrive at temperatures between 73 and 84 according to NOAA. And while it may be an all-time high, the comparison to other top readings is tricky because of how it was recorded. The existing record for the hottest ocean surface temperature is 99.7, which was reached in Kuwait Bay in the Persian Gulf. Jeff Berardelli, Florida WFLE News Channel 8's chief meteorologist and climate specialist, said it's unclear if Monday's reading will be counted as a world record. These buoys that are inside Florida Bay, so that's north of Florida Keys and South Florida Peninsula, they're all in very shallow, murky, dark water. Berardelli told CNBC because it's murky, because it's contaminated with sediment, the water temperatures are reflective of the fact that darker surfaces absorb more heat, which is a fair point to that. Berardelli said the unique qualities of the area mean that it's not really comparable to most water measurements, which are are in more clear water that may have a little bit more water movement, like tidal movement. Complicating matters further, he said there are no official records that are kept on water temperature. A spokesperson for World Meteorological Organization told CNBC that the group's Weather and Climate Extremes archive doesn't currently track sea to surface temperatures. And again, my question there is, what is the temperature further down? Like, again, you're only at 5 feet at measurement for this. What is the temperature 20 feet down? 70 feet down. What's the temperature in the Marianas Trench? The lowest point on Earth. Nevertheless, recent readings in South Florida have been extreme. Burrardeli set 2 other sites in the Florida Keys recorded temperatures of 98 or higher, which substantiates the fact that the sensor was likely either correct or it was off by a degree, but even if it's off by a degree, it's still close to a world record. The heat, which penetrated Florida's coastal waters for the past several weeks, presents a major environmental concern, said Feynor Montoya Maya, a marine biologist and the restoration program manager for the nonprofit Coral Restoration Foundations. If water temperatures remain above 84 for a significant period, corals will begin to experience stress and start to bleach, robbing them of nutrition they need to survive, Maya said in an emailed statement. Corals can recover from bleaching when temperatures return to normal levels, which they will fairly shortly. But, again, they're still going to put the panic out there. Fear! Fear what's happening here! Over in Phoenix with our friends from NPR. Phoenix melts in a record streak of days over 110 degrees. And it's not over yet. From Megan Lim, Alejandro Marquez Jantz, and remember, NPR is only 10% government funded, so make sure that you hit that donate button and tell the world that you stand against the evil of MAGA, who has turned up the temperature in Phoenix. Hit that donate button, that's right. Ad revenue is not up, and it's only 10% government funded, and they need our money, comrade, to tell you that anything that doesn't agree with the progressive left is evil. NPR is never printing reality. National Progressive Radio. Well, let's see what it is that they have to say. Record-breaking. Oh, make sure that you sign up for the newsletter and donate some more. Record-breaking loses some of its wow factor when that record just keeps getting broken. Tuesday marks 26 consecutive days in Phoenix, with a temperature over 110. There are roughly 1.6 million people living in Phoenix, and nearly 5 million people in the greater Phoenix metro area. Phoenix is known for being hot, but this July has been distinct. Not just for the top temperatures, but the consistency of this heat wave. July 2022 had an average temperature of 95.3, one forecast as reported by the Washington Post. Where Democracy Goes to Die in Darkness finds Phoenix could end this July with a record average temperature of 102.7. But it's a dry heat. This kind of heat isn't just uncomfortable, it can be deadly. So far this year, 18 people have died from heat-associated deaths, and 69 more are under investigation, according to Maricopa County's weekly heat report. It feels like an oven, said Eric Brickley of Feed Phoenix. The community organization has been setting up hydration stations around the city, delivering ice and water to the homeless population and anyone who needs it. It's basically the only thing that keeps someone from perishing. Some of the places people are living are so hot and deadly that without ice, even in the shade, they will die. A new study finds heat waves across the US and Europe right now could be virtually impossible without the influence of climate change. NPR's Juana Summers spoke with Phoenix and Mayor Kate Gallego on Tuesday about the heat wave. Here's what she said. On clearing out the city's largest homeless encampment, our priority is to get people into indoor shelter. Thanks to our partnership with the Biden admin, we now have hundreds of millions of dollars that we could put towards indoor air-conditioned shelters. So that's a top priority. We have a robust network of cooling centers, about 60 through 62 in our region. And those can be important, but my goal would be to get people inside to an air-conditioned environment. Protecting people working outside like construction workers. One of the things that we're going to mark for the first time this Thursday is the city is investing in container storage housing, which can be built indoors in air-conditioned environments and then installed on site using a crane. So it's much less exposure for our construction workers, and we're hopeful that with making more of these processes indoors, they will be safer and better off. So what now? Mostly just waiting for it to cool off. Gallego has also been calling on FEMA to add extreme heat to the list of declared disasters. Gallego encouraged Phoenix residents to register themselves or loved ones for the Cool Callers program, where volunteers conduct check-ins for those who may be at risk for heat stroke, especially older residents. Well, we'll see. There are millions of people there. 11 passed away, supposedly directly from heat, with 69 more. I'm sorry, 18, not 11. With 69 more under investigation. And again, I mean, one of the things that goes on with this, like when we had the 104-degree day in '97, I live in Wisconsin. It's surrounded by water on two sides. You got Lake Michigan over to the Kenosha side and the Mississippi River over to the west side. So when it does get warm, it's humid. And pretty much, by the way, anytime it does get hot here, it's humid. I could stand 95, 98 in Phoenix. I mean, I complained about it because, just basically on principle, because it was wintertime and my body wasn't used to it. I went down there in February a few years ago, and it was 95 degrees almost every day there, but it didn't seem like it was that bad. So, I don't know. I've never experienced 110 degree dry heat. The people that live down there tell me it's not bad. It's actually kind of enjoyable. I will take their word for it because, well, quite frankly, I am in no hurry to go down there and experience it. But I do hope that there is safety in the Phoenix area. And in Mexico, from CNN. A hurricane that just made landfall in Mexico is triggering flood concerns in parts of Southern California. So this will be the next thing that they blame on climate change. From Derek Van Dam, Judson Jones, Brandon Miller, Allison Chinchar, and Monica Garrett. Hurricane K made landfall in Mexico along the west coast of the central Baja California Peninsula on Thursday afternoon, triggering flooding concerns. Not just in that region, but in parts of California and Arizona too. Hurricane conditions were impacting the peninsula on Thursday and were expected to last several hours. As the storm moved along the coast, according to the National Hurricane Center, K had a maximum sustained winds of 75 miles an hour at the time of landfall, making it a Category 1 storm. It's expected to weaken throughout Thursday evening, the center said, but added that the tropical storm conditions will spread northward, and I believe that this will make it into Texas as a tropical storm. It will probably be fizzled out by the time it gets to Oklahoma. We'll probably get some rain off of it, honestly. And those of you in California will probably get some rain off of it too, but I mean, for the most part, just kind of seeing where it tracks and how it goes. It's probably going to go up and along the Mississippi Valley. It might pick up a little bit of steam off the Mississippi yet, but for the most part, no. You'll get some rain, you'll get some flooding, you'll get some nice relief in Texas from the heat. Heavy rains will drench Southern California Friday, which they need desperately, potentially bringing several months to a year's worth of rain to a normally arid landscape. Where's the downside here? They complain about the fact that they never have any rain or snow, and now they're getting rain and snow left and right. Fill those basins, you guys. But that's not all. As the storm moves north, strong winds, far from providing immediate relief from California's climate crisis-driven heat wave, actually could push already record temperatures higher in some places. Flooding is also possible starting Friday in parts of southwest Arizona, the Hurricane Center said. K is expected to remain at hurricane strength until it's around 250 miles from San Diego, something only 4 other storms have done since 1950, according to the National Weather Service, before weakening as it moves towards the U.S. West Coast. But the storm doesn't need to be strong for this to be a major concern for Southern California, said Brant Maxwell, a National Weather Service meteorologist in San Diego. K is forecast to track parallel to Baja, so it's not going to go up through Texas. Is that what you're telling me? Through Friday, pushing what could be a record-breaking amount of moisture into the Southern California and Arizona. Then just shy of the U.S.-Mexico border, it will turn westward, away from the coast, as it makes the closest pass to Southern California for a hurricane since 1997's Hurricane Nora. A turn to the west is expected by Saturday night, the Hurricane Center said. Look, I hear an awful lot of complaining here. Oh, California, it's too dry. We're in a drought. We never get any rain. Hey, have some rain. Oh, it's going to bring moisture with it. What are we going to do? I don't know. Fill your basins? Water your crops? So it's supposed to be tracking here, but it does not appear that they have any tracking on the map. But I will say to my friends in California, do stay safe. Whatever happens, do stay safe. Alright, let's talk Obama from the Hill. To start with, the article that set this all off from yesterday. Obama's former chef. Obama's former chef found dead near their Martha's Vineyard home from Olaf Ocean. Massachusetts authorities said that a body found dead near former President Obama's Martha's Vineyard residence is that of the former family chef. In a news release on Monday, Massachusetts State Police said that authorities recovered the body of a missing paddleboarder from Edgartown, Great Pond. Divers from the department's underwater recovery unit made the recovery after a body was located by the Mass Environmental Police, who found it by deploying side-scan sonar from a boat. So my first question here, because they were out there with the boat with side-scan, they discovered the body, and then got the underwater recovery unit. What were they looking for? Like, were they specifically looking for this person? Mass State Police later identified the victim as Tafari Campbell, 45, who was previously employed by the former First Family as a personal chef. Campbell, a native of Dumfries, Virginia, was visiting the family's Martha's Vineyard residence at the time of his death. Authorities noted that the Obamas were not home at the time of the incident. I believe that story has been updated to find that they were home at the time now. In a joint statement, former President Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama remembered Tafari as a beloved part of our family, noting when they first met the sous chef during their time in the White House. That's why when we were getting ready to leave the White House, we asked Tafari to stay with us. And he generously agreed, the Obama said in their statement obtained by The Hill. He's been part of our lives ever since, and our hearts are broken since he's gone. Today we join everyone who knew and loved Tafari, especially his wife, Charisse, and their twin boys, Xavier and Savin, in grieving the loss of a truly wonderful man, the Obamas added. So, some of this, it makes you wonder, and I would like to. I know that a lot of my more right-leaning friends want to jump straight to the fact that this was foul play and Clinton body count and everything else. I would like to go through this and just say that this is a person who was out paddleboarding and he lost balance in recovery and he fell into the water and he drowned, and that's the end of it. Unfortunately, I have questions because there are a few things that don't add up to this. Now, this was a former employee, number one, who has come back just to visit the family home. But what was odd about this is, under the first reporting of this, he was visiting the family home while the Obamas were not there. It has been later updated in other stories, and we'll talk a bit more about this in a bit, that they were actually there at the time. But my first question is why would he have been there when they were not? As a former employee. Now, as a family friend and former employee, if he is as close as they say, then that can easily be explained away. You know, he's not working for them anymore, but he wants to come back and play cribbage for a little while. I mean, Martha's Vineyard is a fantastic place to go take a vacation. It absolutely is. But again, the fact that they had to change the story like this, it raises so many questions about this. We'll read a little bit more from the Daily Mail. Barack Obama's chef Tafari Campbell drowns in paddleboarding accident near $12 million. I don't really know why they had to add that to this. Martha's Vineyard home of heartbroken ex-president. From Melissa Koenig and James Nye for DailyMail.com and Emma James in Edgartown, Massachusetts for DailyMail.com. The former White House sous chef for Barack and Michelle has been identified as the man found dead following a paddleboarding accident near the couple's Martha's Vineyard property. Tafari Campbell's body was recovered on Monday by divers after going missing in the pond that backs to Barack Obama's sprawling $12 million estate. The 45-year-old vanished on Sunday evening while he was out with another paddleboarder in the Edgartown Great Pond, and the emergency crews were dispatched to the Obama's residence. So, okay, that does shine a little bit of light onto this. That he was out with somebody else and he never came back, so that's probably why they were looking. In a statement, Michelle and Barack said Campbell, who was married with 19-year-old twins, was one of the top chefs in the White House kitchen. Tafari was a beloved part of our family. When we first met him, he was a talented sous chef at the White House, creative and passionate about food, and his ability to bring people together in the years that followed. We got to know him as a warm, fun, extraordinary, kind person who made all of our lives a little brighter. That's why, when we were getting ready to leave the White House, we asked Tafari to stay with us, and he generously agreed. He's been part of our lives ever since, and our hearts are broken that he's gone. Campbell's family told the South Florida Sun-Sentinel in 2009 he'd always shown an interest in cooking and would frequently whip up something when his large family came to visit. He graduated from a culinary school in Virginia and had briefly owned his own restaurant before applying for a job at the White House. The sous chef was eventually hired under George W. Bush and was one of just 4 White House cooks asked to stay on under Obama. During the Obama presidency, Campbell became known for brewing White House honey ale beer using honey from Michelle Obama's South Lawn garden. I immediately thought of African Americans who brewed beer for Washington and Jefferson, and was pleased to see the historical arc played out through the suds. Historian Adrian Miller writes of Campbell in his book, The President's Kitchen Cabinet, the story of the African Americans who have fed our first families from the Washingtons to the Obamas. Photos Campbell posted online of his life often featured his wife Charisse in his food concoctions. So, I mean, it looks like I don't see any reason for a foul play, but I can sit here and understand why people are looking at this. I don't even know what it would be that he would have known that they would be trying to silence. And again, for this, I want to believe that this is just an absolute nothing burger. But there are questions upon questions about this that don't seem to be being answered at this point. The Blaze reporting 911 call was made from Obama's mansion in Martha's Vineyard regarding the former president's personal chef who drowned while paddleboarding. From Courtney Wheel, update: the missing paddleboarder has been identified as 43-year-old Tafari Campbell, who reported to be married, father of twins who worked as a private chef at the Obama's residence on Martha's Vineyard. This story has been updated to include a statement from the former president and his wife Michelle. So we're going to skip some of this at the beginning of this. Just after 7:45 p.m. on Sunday, law enforcement received reports of a man who had gone missing while paddleboarding in Edgartown Great Pond, an 890-acre body of water on Martha's Vineyard. Obama's $12 million waterfront property in the island, which was purchased in 2019, is located on Edgartown Great Pond, and a 911 call regarding the man reportedly came from the Obama's mansion. It is unclear whether the former president or any member of his family was visiting the residence at the time. According to reports, 43-year-old Campbell had been wearing all black, a hat and no life jacket when he began drowning. His male companion claimed that the victim went underwater in the area of Turkeyland Cove and was briefly resurfaced, but struggled to keep himself above water. He then disappeared under the surface around 7:46 p.m., the companion said. Members of various law enforcement and emergency rescue teams were dispatched to the pond to locate the missing chef. Crews worked for hours that night, managing to find the Campbell's hat and paddleboard, but not the man himself. They eventually paused their search efforts until the morning. Sadly, around 10:00 hours on Monday, divers with the Mass State Police Underwater Recovery Unit located the Campbell's body using side-scan sonar from a boat. And we heard the Obama statement already off this one. And his widow also speaks out. Widow of an Obama family chef speaks out after husband found dead from Daniel Shayton, which I believe we have video of this one here. The widow of former President Barack Obama's personal chef sent out a tribute to her late husband after he was found dead on Monday in a pond near the Obama family estate. Let's listen.
Let's turn now to the tragic death of a close employee of former President Barack Obama. The body of 45-year-old Tafari Campbell, the Obama's longtime personal chef, has been recovered after he drowned while paddleboarding near the family's home on Martha's Vineyard. NBC's Emily Aketa is following this one for us. Emily, good morning.
Good morning to you. This is personal for the Obamas, who say they considered Campbell a member of their family. He started out as a White House chef and was asked to continue with the family after the former president left office. Authorities say Mr. and Mrs. Obama were not present at the residence at the time of the accident. This morning, tragedy near former President Obama's vacation home on Martha's Vineyard after the family's longtime personal chef and friend, Tafari Campbell, was found dead 100 feet from shore.
For a 40-year-old male, possible drowning. It's controlled to Edgartown Fire Water Rescue personnel.
The grim discovery Monday morning followed an hours-long search and rescue effort involving divers, boats, and helicopters that began the night before. Officials got word an adult male went missing after another paddleboarder saw he had gone into the water, appeared to briefly struggle to stay on the surface, and then submerged and did not resurface. It happened in the Edgartown Great Pond, with parts 8 feet deep.
It's on a paddleboard, no life preserver. He was last seen wearing all black. They have not had eye contact on him.
The 45-year-old who had been visiting the island was married with twin sons, his wife posting that she was, quote, heartbroken yesterday. Campbell had posted videos of himself practicing swimming on social media several years ago. He served as a personal employee of President Obama for years. The pair first met when Campbell worked as a talented sous chef at the White House.
What you do is you take the beer bottle and you let it fill all the way to the top.
In 2015, Campbell was in the kitchen when Savannah spent the day with President Obama at the White House for Today.
Tafari, you're just making a mess, man.
No, I just can't.
Look at that.
Can't get myself to get there.
You're a little nervous. Savannah's making you nervous.
In a statement, Mr. and Mrs. Obama say their family is heartbroken by the news, adding, Tafari was a beloved part of our family, creative and passionate about food and its ability to bring people together. We got to know him as a warm, fun, extraordinarily kind person who made all of our lives a little brighter. And as we mentioned, authorities say there was a second paddleboarder on the pond with Campbell who saw him go underwater. It's not clear who that person was. State authorities and Edgartown police are leading the investigation. And guys, just a quick but important safety warning. Experts suggest always wearing a life jacket in open waters, regardless of your swimming ability or your age. Just a tragic story.
All right, so a few things that are with that, and some of the things that I would like to know who the other paddleboarder was. They just say that it's a male companion at this point. So, again, a lot of questions on something that, again, I desperately would have hoped would just be an open and shut, this is an accident. But when you spent this much time around the Clintons and in the machine politic, I'm sorry, but any number of things could be happening at this point. We're going to move on. We're going to talk about Devon Archer from ABC News. Get the live chat back up here. Former Hunter Biden associate to sit for closed-door testimony with House Oversight Committee. If it hadn't been for Hillary's obnoxious tweet, this actually might have been lead story today. Although I think the paddleboarder would have stayed lead because we found that on Contemporary yesterday. All right, this is from Will Staken and Lucien Brueggemann. A former close business associate of Hunter is expected to sit for closed-door testimony with House Oversight Committee next week, sources confirmed to ABC News, as Republicans continue their investigations into President Biden and his family. This is going to be lengthy here, so get some popcorn. Devon Archer is set to speak to GOP lawmakers behind closed doors on Monday and will provide details related to the president's son's business dealings in the Ukraine. A source said, is it Devon or Devon? I wonder. And I know people personally that have used and pronounced it both ways. In June, the committee subpoenaed Archer to appear for a deposition because he played a significant role in the Biden family's business deals abroad, including, but not limited to, China, Russia, and Ukraine, according to the subpoena. Republicans on the committee have long claimed that President Biden was more involved in his son's business dealings than he had disclosed. And Monday's interview with Archer will likely be the latest attempt for Republicans to back up those claims. During his 2020 campaign, Biden told reporters, "Hey, come on, man! I've never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else, and anything that had to do with their businesses, man." In a statement on Monday, House Oversight Committee Chairman Jim Comer said the Oversight Committee will continue to follow the facts to provide the transparency and accountability that the American people demand and deserve. We look forward to speaking soon with Devon Archer about Joe Biden's involvement in his family's business affairs. Asked Monday about a New York Post report claiming that Hunter had put his father on speakerphone with business associates during the elder Biden's time as vice president, White House spokesperson, token diversity hire, reiterated that the president was never involved in business with his son, man. News of the scheduled interview comes as Republicans have ramped up their probe into the Biden family in recent weeks. During congressional testimony last week, 2 IRS whistleblowers claimed the DOJ slow-walked the investigation into the president's son. Charles Grassley of Iowa released a confidential FBI informant's unverified claim, and they have to put that word in there. It's unverified, just like when ABC News says, long shot, not serious presidential contenders. Marianne Williamson, RFK Jr. That years ago, the Biden family pushed a Ukrainian oligarch to pay them $10 million. I'm pretty sure there was a lot more to it than just pay us $10 million. Get my son on the board, let us come back in here and we'll make some of your problems go away and keep you delivered from the hands of Russia, or keep the Donbass region in check. There are so many other things. I would love to see, by the way, if this winds up coming out to be true, not just the money trail and the influence, what was promised to both Kiev and Burisma. And again, I've got this feeling that it all comes down to the Donbass region. This, of course, with everything that we're seeing with Russia trying to hold the Donbass region, instead of coming down into Kiev coming down into Kiev through Belarus, which under any military strategist's first thought would be come down through Belarus. You're only a couple hundred miles away from Kiev at that point. I don't even think it's that far. But no, let's go through the slog. Let's go through the hell and the mire and the muck to go thousands of miles through the Donbass region to go try to take the entire country of Ukraine that way. Because then they're going to go after NATO. Oh my God. In a memo to House Democrats obtained by ABC News, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee blasted Grassley and Comer over the release of the FBI form and called it an attempt to breathe new life into years-old conspiracy theories. Chairman Comer's and Senator Grassley's decision to publicly release the form is in brazen disregard of the safety of the FBI human sources and the integrity of its investigations, read the memo. Contrary to Republican messaging, the forum provides no new or additional support for their corruption allegations against the president or Hunter Biden. Instead, its release merely seeks to breathe new life into the years-old conspiracy theory, initially peddled by Rudy Giuliani, that have been thoroughly debunked. Hold on, you guys, I'm gonna debunk! Oh, I'm gonna debunk! Morons. On Wednesday, Hunter will appear in a Delaware courthouse to formally agree to the plea deal. That was today, by the way. He negotiated last month with federal prosecutors who have been probing his business dealings. So, got a few more things on the Devon Archer testimony, including some previews. This is an op-ed from the New York Post. The opinions expressed in this article are the opinions of the Post editorial board. There's no author given on this one, but are the opinions of the Post editorial board and not necessarily the opinions of the Post itself, or on our site, turnsofpagesproductions.com, Contemporary, or your host, J. Edgar. This is an opinion piece. Devon Archer's testimony proves it. Hunter's a grifter and Joe's a damn liar. The White House sharply changed its tune on Monday, saying that Biden was never in business with his son for nearly 3 years. The president has insisted that he didn't know anything about Hunter's dodgy foreign grift, let alone do business with him. Why the change of tune? Because the lies are finally starting to fall apart. On Monday, the Post revealed upcoming bombshell testimony from Hunter's ex-business partner, Devon Archer, who says the first son threw his then VP dad on speaker during shady business calls, as many as 24 times just in Archer's presence. Archer says the president didn't always realize he was on speakerphone. Even that's dubious, but assuming it's true, Biden, a sitting vice president, surely knew what Hunter was doing generally and did nothing to stop it. And if the president and his media lackeys are willing to lie so blatantly for 3 years, why should we believe anything he says on the subject as the waters lap closer to the White House lawn? He has long since sacrificed the benefit of the doubt. Then there's Hunter himself, painted as the poor little rich boy in certain corners of the media. He's an addict, his defenders whine. And now the mean old Republicans won't stop picking on him. No, Hunter, like Joe, knew exactly what he was doing. It's glaringly obvious what he was trying to sell by ringing up his pop, influence. Remember, these calls occurred when Joe was vice president. One in December 2015 featured Hunter seemingly tried to help his then employer, Ukrainian energy company Burisma. An executive there, 1 month earlier, had explicitly demanded he use his clout to close down a corruption probe into the firm. Burisma hired Hunter onto its board at a mind-boggling $83,000 a month, even though he had no relevant skills or experience, just the connection to Dad. Owner Mykola Zlochevsky, who was on the December call, wanted some bang for his buck. And Zlochevsky, per an FBI informant, claimed he was forced to pay each Biden, father and son, a $5 million bribe. He says he's got audio recordings of Joe and Hunter along with bank records and other evidence to prove it. Well, it needs to be seen at some point. And it sure looks like Hunter delivered. The prosecutor looking to Burisma was fired a few months after this illicit phoner. So don't let the media's silence around Archer's testimony fool you. Indeed, that just shows how damaging it is. So, we will see what happens off of it. Definitely. A little bit from Fox News here. Hunter Biden's friend to tell Congress then VP Joe joined dozens of Son's business meetings via phone. Report from Lawrence Richard. Devon Archer, a former best friend and business associate of Hunter in Ukraine, was expected to testify under oath to Congress this week that President Biden met with dozens of Hunter's business associates while he was serving as the vice president between 2009 and 2017. Fox News Digital has confirmed that Archer has been subpoenaed by the House Oversight Committee and could testify as early as Thursday, July 27th. The expected testimony could cast further doubt on President Biden's repeated claims that he had no knowledge of his son's foreign business dealings or of having any influence on them. Miranda Devine, the New York Post columnist and Fox News contributor, reported Monday that Archer, 48, is expected to tell the House Oversight Committee about meetings he witnessed and attended by both Bidens, Hunter, and Joe, either in person or via telephone during the meeting. Hunter would specifically introduce his father to foreign business partners or prospective investors. Archer is expected to testify. The House Oversight Committee subpoenaed Archer to speak as House Republicans continue to investigate whether the Bidens used the influence of then Vice President Biden had in the White House to elicit these deals and other alleged Biden family corruption. The committee told Fox News it believes the president communicated in some form with Hunter's business associates. So, there's a lot of stuff that's going on here, and a lot of ways that this could go terribly wrong for the people who are prosecuting this right now. So, and I'm already seeing some of the media spin and some of the lackey spin coming off of this because, they're just going after a disgruntled, and Devon Archer and Hunter Biden got in a fight, so that's why he's just doing this to try to hurt Hunter because they got in a fight or something or other, this, that, and the next thing. Which, by the way, is entirely possible. The Archer testimony is going to carry some weight into this, but it is not going to be the be-all, end-all. That's something that's going to be important to go with. It's going to push the investigation into a different direction. It's going to lead into places that other people can look into, but it's not going to be the be-all, end-all of this investigation. There's still a lot to go over with this, and a lot that still needs to be proven. It gives another avenue of places to find records, but they are going to need these records. Plain and simple, they're going to need these records. In a way that I don't believe that they have them yet, but I believe that they could be found at this point. Keep in mind, the people don't even believe that the 1023 exists, and we've seen it. And yes, as I said, with Zlochevsky and what he did there, yes, again, that's another good place to start an investigation and a launching point too, but Grassley is going to need to find and present receipts at some point here. So, and I'm excited to hear what goes on with this and how the media spin goes with it. Again, the anticipation is going to be that, he's just a disgruntled former friend, and he's trying to hurt his former friend, and he's found the perfect way to go do that, and a bunch of other things. You are going to need to have recordings of some sort to show Hunter putting Joe on speaker, which Zlochevsky might actually have. We don't know. But this is far from over. But it's starting to get interesting also, so we will see what happens and where this goes. More Hunter news. We gotta refresh this, because they need our ad dollars, don't they? Again from the New York Post, Hunter Biden sold $1.3 million in art, and one buyer was a Democrat donor friend. Joe appointed to a prestigious commission from Stephen Nelson. First Son Hunter's novice artwork has ranked in at least $1.3 million, with buyers including a Democrat donor friend, whom his dad named to a prestigious commission, a report said on Monday. Elizabeth Hirsch Naftali, a Los Angeles real estate investor and philanthropist, bought one of Hunter's works, according to a Business Insider, which cited sales and records kept by his art dealer, the Georges Burgess Gallery of Manhattan. Naftali was appointed by President Biden to the Commission for the Preservation of America's Heritage abroad in July of 22, about 8 months after Hunter's first art show, which took place in Hollywood. It's unclear when Naftali bought her Hunter artwork or how much she paid for it. A Biden admin official told the publication that Naftali was recommended for the Preservation Board post by former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and that she didn't buy the position through the art deal. Oh yeah, I'm sure. Meanwhile, Insider said the largest chunk of Hunter's art sales so far has gone to a single deep-pocketed mystery buyer who scooped up 11 artworks for a total of $875,000. The outlet reported that one of Hunter's art buyers is his sugar brother, Kevin Morris, a wealthy lawyer who reportedly lent him about $2 million to pay off the back taxes. It wasn't known whether Morris was the top buyer. Insider's report was the most detailed to date on the first son's art sales. I mean, if you want to pay that much for an original Hunter Biden, that's on you. I have no desire to. But this does reek of, well, corruption. And a way to go back and get money into the coffers without having to report it. On the David Weiss news, and there was a little bit on that avenue, from the Daily Wire, Hunter prosecutor will be allowed to testify before Congress after Republican slam plea deal from Leaf LeMahieu. Which, by the way, this was one of the things that came up in the news, and I skipped over a few stories on this because there were people complaining that he wanted to come back and testify, and evil Republicans weren't allowing him. Well, I guess now evil Republicans are allowing him to do so. Hunter prosecutor and U.S. Attorney for the District of Delaware, David Weiss, will be allowed to testify before the House Judiciary, according to a letter from Department of Justice. Weiss's testimony could come after the announcement of a plea deal where Hunter would plead guilty to 2 tax misdemeanors and admit the facts of a gun charge, which, by the way, is a nice and easy way to put him into double jeopardy territory, which means he can't be charged with the tax crimes again because he's already been convicted of it. If the deal is accepted by a judge, it will likely mean no jail time for the president's son. Republican lawmakers were quick to decry the deal, saying it was too lenient on Hunter, prompting Jim Jordan to send a letter requesting Weiss's testimony before Congress. The DOJ appreciates the committee on the Judiciary's committee's acceptance of our offer for the U.S. Attorney Weiss to testify at a public hearing before the committee. The department is ready to offer U.S. Attorney Weiss to testify shortly after Congress returns from the August district work period as described more fully below. Assistant AG Carlos Felipe Uriarte wrote in a letter to Jordan. Potential dates for the testimony included September 27th or 28th or October 18th or 19th. DOJ added in its letter it was concerned that there were misunderstandings about its work and wanted Weiss to speak to those concerns. At the same time, we're deeply concerned by any misrepresentations about our work, whether deliberate or arising from misunderstandings that could unduly harm public confidence in the even-handed administration of justice, to which we are dedicated, Uriarte wrote. Weiss has been criticized by IRS whistleblowers who have contended that he has not been consistent with his handling of the investigation into the president's son. One, Joseph Ziegler, has disputed several statements made by Weiss, saying Hunter should face more serious criminal charges. The second whistleblower, IRS Supervisory Agent Gary Shapley, has said that the DOJ and Weiss have been unclear about who has been charging authority. In the investigation into Hunter, the story has been changed from the Department of Justice and U.S. Attorney Weiss, and the only person that's really had any documents that have been corroborated are my own, Shapley said before Congress last week. So it'll be interesting to see what Weiss has to say before the committee. I can tell you that he has been coached and even probably offered some of the script writing himself as to what he can and what he can't say and how to get around some of the questions that are going to come up off of this. And of course, this gives Marjorie Taylor Greene another avenue and opportunity to show naked pictures of Hunter and stop making this about the tax crimes and make it all about the laptop and Hunter's penis again. We'll see what happens with that and where that goes. From CNN. Let's skip this one, actually. We'll go to the opinion of it, though, here. Well, this is not marked as an opinion, but this is marked as news from the New York Post. Prosecutor who investigated Hunter is son of crooked IRS agent. From John Levine. All right, you have my attention. A DOJ attorney who has led a years-long investigation into Hunter is the son of a crooked Internal Revenue Service agent, records show. Meyer Weiss, whose son David served as the U.S. Attorney for Delaware, was convicted in 1985 of taking more than $200,000 from businessmen looking to skirt federal tax laws, according to the nonprofit Marco Polo. The elder Weiss worked at the IRS in Philly from 55 to 84. The story of his disgrace was covered in the Washington Post in 1984. Mr. Weiss confessed and cooperated in the investigation, court records read. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison and fined $100,000. Records show the elder Weiss paid in part for his son's college and law school tuition with money he received in bribes. David Weiss has faced criticism from Republicans and whistleblowers within the IRS who say he allowed Hunter to receive a sweetheart plea deal for tax evasion. As far as this goes, now number one, you first have to separate the sins of the son from the sins of the father. And David is not Meyer. It is interesting, though, that with his father's crimes, that David would also go into the judiciary and be faced with covering tax crimes. That's an interesting connection. Correlation does not necessarily mean causation, but it's still an interesting connection nonetheless. It's something that's definitely worth looking into, but you may or may not find anything there. From the Associated Press, Speaker McCarthy floats an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. From Lisa Mascaro, House Speaker McCarthy says Republican lawmakers may consider an impeachment inquiry of President Biden over unproven claims, and of course we have to editorialize this. Get ready for the editorialization, because it's going to be bad in this one. I promise you. Over unproven claims of financial misconduct, responding to enormous GOP pressure to demonstrate support for Donald Trump ahead of the 2024 presidential election. Why does it have to be to demonstrate support of Donald Trump? Can we just want transparency in our government? Again, I don't support Donald Trump being the president next time through. I'm appalled by the idea, because I know that as soon as somebody comes in and says, Mr. Trump, you're becoming unpopular because you won't sign this next omnibus bill here. Okay, bring on the omnibus. I'm going to sign it. I want to be the most popular president in history. I'll sign it right now. Like, you can be against Trump being in office and still want to see transparency in the government. I've been participating in a long Twitter thread, a comment war back and forth, which is probably still popping off over on Twitter today, where somebody came out and said earlier on that, well, the FBI it's surprisingly conservative, and it feeds conservative causes because it's put down every liberal movement that's ever existed in the last 70 years, which is true, by the way. That's absolutely true. But it's not so much focused on left versus right, unless your religion is left versus right, obviously. And it's more keeping outsiders out. All these liberal movements that have tried to uprise in the last 70 years have been trying to change out the structure of government and get the old entrenched people out of there and put their people in. Somebody else came in and weighed in and says, well, they're extremely conservative in the DOJ and the FBI. So don't you think that they're actually going over after Donald Trump because he actually did these things? And I told the guy, I'm like, dude, listen to me. Listen to yourself and listen to me. They put down every single liberal movement over 70 years. The other person said, yes, that's happened. And he's right. That has happened. They come in and they break it down and they make sure that they gain no power because they are political outsiders trying to come in to the body politic. Is it really that much of a stretch that they're going to go back and try to hammer down on the other political outsider? Is it really that big of a logical step for you to go from one to the other? Again, and I've said this numerous times on here, you don't have to be in support of the orange spending spree being back in office and spending our tax dollars faster than we can give them to him, especially with tax cuts he'll try to put back into office. You don't have to be in support of that and understand the fact that putting your political adversary in the gulag is not a good idea. But the Associated Press is not going to let you believe that. In remarks Tuesday at the Capitol, McCarthy said the questions House Republicans are raising about the Biden family finances need to be investigated. So far, he acknowledged the House's probes have not proven any wrongdoing, but an impeachment inquiry allows Congress to get information to be able to know the truth. And by the way, an impeachment is not an indictment, it's an investigation. So they've got the inquiry open. An impeachment inquiry by the House would be a first step towards bringing articles of impeachment. Such a probe could be as lengthy or as swift as the House determines, potentially stretching into campaign season. And that's another important thing to look at for this, because people's memories are short. The impeachment inquiry was open in Watergate, I believe in 72? Somebody fact check me on that. I can always go back and look it up again. But they were investigating Watergate for a long time. The impeachment inquiry into Clinton went for 2 years before they brought the articles of impeachment down and got him on perjury rather than what they were actually trying to go after him for in the first place. The reason that most people look at this and say, as soon as McCarthy says impeachment inquiry, it means that they've impeached him and they've done the indictment and they're voting on it right away, is because that's what happened in the last 2 impeachments, which were both under the last administration. They didn't do an inquiry for either one of them. Well, the second one was so hurried along because they were trying to get it before the end of a term and they only had 13 days to do it. But they didn't do an inquiry. They didn't do an investigation. They came in and said, hey, we got this perfect phone call. Articles, right now, vote on them right now. Oh, he did January 6th. Articles, right now, vote on it right now. And that's what most of the people who are looking at impeachment right now remember. Not the years and sometimes, months and sometimes years-long inquiries in the last 2 impeachments. '80s kid over on YouTube says, do me a favor and let's play a game. Mess around with your taxes with the IRS like Hunter did. I just want to see if you go to jail or not. No, I actually pay extra in on taxes. As much as I hate paying it, because I don't want to get audited. I tell my tax accountant every year, I'm like, yeah, let's skip some of these deductions here, because I speak out vocally against the government. And I know they see what I do. I'm openly anti-government, so I am audit central. To be surprised, I don't know if Alana's even watching right now, but to be completely honest, I'm a little surprised, and I'm grateful, by the way, but I'm a little surprised she still takes me on, because I don't know if she wants to go through that audit or not. When they try to give me the anal probe and put me in prison over 12 cents or something like that. Here's another true story based on how much I distrust the government and how much I'm waiting for them to come audit me over some minuscule amount. So, when I moved out of Kenosha, it was one of the first years that I had to pay in for taxes, because I jumped from $8,000 a year to $24,000 a year overnight, pretty much. It wasn't that low, but it was stupid low. So I pretty much doubled my income overnight. And my W-2s were not prepared for that kind of shock. And I had to wind up paying in. But I was still poor. I was still trying to recover from being poor in Kenosha. And I was late on paying the bill. Yes, I know. It's a bad thing. I did pay it eventually. But like at the time, and they've changed how they do it now, but at the time, you were supposed to guess what your late fee was based on calculation. So I paid. I did the calculations that were on there, figured out what my late fee was. And they told me I overpaid by $11.13. And they sent me a check for $11.13, which I promptly burned. And then every year since then, because I paid in for a number of years, a small amount every year, but I paid in a small amount every year. It was usually between $5 and $15 every year since then. And then I think this past year was one of the no, not this past year, the year before was one of the first times I actually got a return back. But until then, I kept getting the check after I paid in $11.13, and I kept burning the check every time. They finally snuck it in when they gave me my stimulus check, the reissue for that. That's where they snuck it in, and I finally said, the fuck with it, I'm going to keep it. And if you audit me, you audit me, but I know that they will put you in federal prison for 15 and a half years over $11.13. So I kept burning the check every time it came. And I also ripped up my first stimulus check, which is why they had to do the reissue. Because they kept bugging me about it, and finally I said the fuck with it. If you're going to force me to take this money, I'm going to use it and get out of my identity theft, which is what I did with it. But regardless, I'm still waiting for the audit that comes from that $11.13, by the way. I'm still waiting for that to come down. We will follow this to the end, he said, just first floating the idea late Monday on Fox News, and I believe we have video of this here, so it's the strongest comment yet from McCarthy on a potential Biden impeachment after the Republican leader sidelined earlier efforts by House conservatives to launch such an inquiry. With a slim majority in the House, McCarthy faces demands from Trump allies to elevate their priorities. Trump himself questioned at a Fox News town hall last week why Biden has not yet been impeached. McCarthy's not yet endorsed Trump, who is the early Republican frontrunner for president, or any other GOP candidates. He denied a report that he is considering House votes to expunge Trump's two impeachments as another way of showing support, which they should be expunged. They were bullshit. And Clinton's, by the way, should be expunged too. I am in strong favor of Clinton's being expunged. I need to learn a little bit more about Watergate before I know whether or not that one should be, which I'm reading about. Because I still want to do that episode of Overruled with KTZed and rehash Watergate. It's true crime, right? And again, given what I talk about on here and what KTZed talks about, I think it'd actually be a good fit and a good one to go and analyze. I'm positive I would learn a lot, especially outside of what we've been spoon-fed in school about Watergate. But I definitely think Bill should be expunged. Definitely. I don't like Bill Clinton, but I don't like what they got him on either. 80s Kid says, it's like Holly weird actors. They do it all the time, and it involves millions. But like Hunter, they never get jail. Some average fellow would get in deep shit over a few dollars. That's right. They would. Asked if he felt pressure from Trump, he scoffed, "Do I look like I'm under pressure?" And then the bass line kicked in, and Bowie and Freddie Mercury started singing. White House spokesman Ian Sams said the House GOP's eagerness to go after the president, regardless of the truth, is seemingly bottomless, using shorthand for the President of the United States. Okay, Rashid Tlaib Hold on. Let me remind you what eagerness to prioritize and impeach somebody sounds like.
People love you and you win. Woo! And when your son looks at you and says, Mama, look, you won, bullies don't win. And I said, baby, they don't. Because we're going to go in there and we're going to impeach the motherfucker.
That's eagerness to get a political end.
People love you and you win. Woo! And when your son looks at you and says, Mama, look, you won, bullies don't win. And I said, baby, they don't. Because we're going to go in there and we're going to impeach the motherfucker.
I feel like I should make that. I really, at some point, I need to grab one of those Elgato sounder decks. And then we'll sit there and we'll play sounders like that all the time. Instead of focusing on the real issues Americans want us to address, like continue to lower inflation or create jobs, this is what the House GOP wants to prioritize, Sam said on Twitter. Well, one of the things that's been pointed out, and I do generally agree with this, is while 3% is still ridiculous inflation, especially given the fact that it's compounded on top of 9.1%, part of the reason that we've got down to this 3% number is because there is an impasse between House and Senate spending, and they can't get anything through. Republicans in Congress have ramped up investigations of Biden and his son Hunter. House Republicans are digging into the family finances, particularly payments the younger Biden received from Burisma, a Ukrainian energy company that became tangled in the first impeachment of Trump. Hunter has since reached an agreement with persecutors to plead guilty to misdemeanor charges of having failed to pay income taxes for several years. He is set to appear in court this week in that case. And here's the more editorialization. But Republicans continue to pursue a largely debunked theory stemming from the first Trump impeachment about Burisma. With newer information, an unnamed confidential FBI informant claimed, by the way, it is a named FBI informant, that Burisma company officials in 2015 and 2016 sought to pay the Bidens $5 million each in return for their help ousting a Ukrainian prosecutor who was purportedly investigating the company. And again, my big question there is, did Barack know? That's one of the biggest questions I have about this. Did Barack know? So he says that, yeah, he might come back out and do this. We will see what happens there. CNN, trying to read McCarthy's mind, inside McCarthy's sudden warming to a Biden impeachment inquiry from Melanie Zanona, Manu Raju, and Annie Grayer. Speaker McCarthy in recent weeks has heard a similar advice from both a senior House Republican and an influential conservative lawyer prioritizing the impeachment of President Biden over a member of his cabinet. Part of the thinking, according to multiple sources familiar with the internal discussions, is that if House Republicans are going to expend precious resources on the politically tricky task of an impeachment, which they won't win, by the way. That is one thing that I will point out. The fact is that they won't win. What may come out of this, though, is cracking open of financial records that will affect the outcome of the election. I know they won't win. I mean, it takes 67 votes in the House. Republicans have 49, so they can't even do this on a partisan manner. They might as well go after the highest target as opposed to the Attorney General or Secretary of Homeland Security. I mean, take them too. They've derelicted their duties. Do multiple at once if you have to. And McCarthy, who sources said has also been consulting with former House GOP Speaker Newt Gingrich on the issue, has warmed up to the idea that has long been relegated to the fringes of his conference. This week, he delivered his most explicit threat yet to Biden, saying the investigations into the Biden family's business deals appear to be rising to the level of an impeachment inquiry, which we talked about this in the last article. We do have video of it. So let's listen from ABC News. Come on.
Let's talk about Congress. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, as you know, making his most direct impeachment threat against Biden amid unsubstantiated allegations, by the way, that the president and his son, Hunter, secretly took millions of dollars in foreign business deals and bribes. But let's take a listen to what the House Speaker said during an interview last night on Fox, and let's talk about it.
We've only followed where the information has taken us. But this is rising to the level of impeachment inquiry, which provides Congress the strongest power to get the rest of the knowledge and information needed. Because this president has also used something we have not seen since Richard Nixon, used the weaponization of government to benefit his family and deny Congress the ability to have the oversight.
All right, that's a pretty serious accusation there. What evidence is McCarthy pointing to here?
Well, right now, Republicans have a bunch of whistleblowers who have come forward, and some of them are going to be testifying over the next couple of days. But beyond that, you know, they don't have a lot to support these allegations, and that is why McCarthy says they want to start an impeachment inquiry. When he was talking about making the strongest argument for Congress to have the strongest foot forward, he was actually referring to an argument that former Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler made against Donald Trump in 2019. It's this sort of argument that when you're in an impeachment inquiry, Congress actually has the strongest hand to get evidence from the White House. Now, of course, interbranch fights are very common as somebody who's covered them for over a decade, but McCarthy is arguing that if they're in impeachment, the White House will have to turn over evidence that it does not want to turn over right now. So we'll see if that actually is the case. I do think that McCarthy's words have to be put in context in that he's actually under a ton of fire right now from Donald Trump, who is furious with him for not putting up a vote to expunge his impeachment record when he had promised Trump that would do so. And then on the other hand, he's hearing from conservatives who are furious about the spending levels of the spending bills coming to the House floor as soon as this week. So,
all right, can't listen to that anymore. And one thing to point out with what she had just said there too is the fact that if they do this, and you know where they were bringing back before, limited resources and everything else, not going after Garland or Mayorkas or anybody else like that, this is going to be expensive. For something that we know is not going to get a conviction, this is going to be expensive. And I'd really like to see those documents that they say that the Biden admin can't turn over. So I'm in a kind of a mixed spot with this here, but we'll see what happens. Nancy Pelosi, of course, weighing in. The chief of Playing Politics Pelosi says McCarthy is playing politics with impeachment expungement. So this is going back to the other side of the aisle with Eileen Grafe reporting for CNN. Nancy Pelosi said on Sunday that House Speaker McCarthy was playing politics with the idea of expunging former President Trump's 2 impeachments.
Kevin is, playing politics. It's not even clear if he constitutionally can expunge these things.
Which I think he can. Again, I've pointed out the fact that while Adam Schiff says there is no constitutional mechanism to expunge, there's also no constitutional mechanism barring the expungement. Food for thought. That is something for lawyers to discuss and argue over, and may have to go to the Supreme Court.
If he wants to put his members on the spot, his members in a difficult races on the spot, this is a decision he has to make. But this is not responsible, Pelosi told CNN's Dana Bash on State of the Union. No, it's not responsible because he gets rid of several months of your hard work, Nancy.
McCarthy said in a private call with Trump that he personally backed the idea of expunging the former president's 2 impeachments and would bring up to the conference to gauge support. However, he has not scheduled a floor vote. And when asked about the idea on Thursday, McCarthy said it should go through the committee like anything else. The California Republican has been working overtime to placate Trump after an interview last... Oh my God, the editorialization of this. After an interview last month in which McCarthy said he thinks the former president can win in 24, but did not know if he was the strongest candidate, prompting outrage from Trump advisors and allies. McCarthy called Trump to apologize after the interview, claiming he misspoke on CNBC, sources told CNN. So, Nancy Pelosi working hard to protect her hard work from her time as House Speaker, which should surprise nobody at this point. And I had this one from Kyle Griffin. We'll go over it just briefly, but I mean, we've already seen where the editorialization is, but Kyle Griffin tweets out, Kevin McCarthy now says the House GOP investigation of the Biden family is rising to the level of impeachment inquiry. Reminder, this investigation has found zero evidence of criminality or even wrongdoing by President Biden. Bullshit. There's evidence of wrongdoing. Now, to get it past speculation, we'll see where it goes. But this is not a... There's no evidence of any wrongdoing here. That is a load of crap. Caesar Pounce says, reminder, yes it has, lots. And then also, none of the people that are jumping down my throat watch the congressional hearings. But it's all hearsay, which I addressed on this program. Technically, yes, it falls to the level of hearsay, but I do believe that there is the evidence out there for Grassley to find. Whether he can find it, well, that's what we have to watch for. We're going to talk about Commander Biden. From the Associated Press. Let's play a game called How Much of a Fluff Piece Does This Turn Out to Be? From the Associated Press, Biden's dog Commander has bit Secret Service officers 10 times in 4 months, records show. From Darlene Superville. President Biden's dog Commander bit or otherwise attacked Secret Service personnel at least 10 times between October 2022 and January, including one incident that required a hospital visit by the injured law enforcement officer, according to records from the DHS. The conservative watchdog group, Judicial Watch, on Tuesday released nearly 200 pages of Secret Service records that it obtained through a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit. The group said it filed the suit after the agency, a division of the DHS, failed to respond adequately to its request last December for records about biting incidences involving the purebred German Shepherd. The group said it filed the request after receiving a tip about Commander's behavior. Commander is the second dog of Biden's to behave aggressively, including biting Secret Service personnel at the White House staff. They eventually sent the dog, a German Shepherd named Major, to live with friends in Delaware after those incidences. The White House and Secret Service appeared to play down the situation on Tuesday, but the latest incidences raised questions about why the Bidens brought another German Shepherd to the executive mansion and why the attacks continued. Well, a part of it is because the Bidens, they can put as much training as they want into a German Shepherd, and they do. They pay dearly for it. But Joe is a weak person. Why would Major or Commander listen to him? I wouldn't. Elizabeth Alexander, Communications Director for the First Lady Jill, said in an email that the White House is complex is a unique and often stressful environment for family pets, and that the Biden family is working through ways to make the situation better for everybody. And see, you say that now, but I don't see a lot of evidence for this in the past. I can understand. I can be sympathetic to the fact that being in a government building, surrounded by cops all the time, people looking suspicious with a little bit of fear around everybody all the time, and visitors coming in constantly, could put a dog in a stressful situation. But this appears to be, and again, you can fact check me if that's not true, but this appears to be the first time this has ever been a big deal. I don't even know if it's the first time it's ever happened, but it's the first time it's ever been made a big deal out of. Anthony Guglielmi, chief spokesperson for the Secret Service, said in a separate email that his agency has for the past several presidents navigated how to best operate around family pets. And these incidences are no exception. We take the safety and well-being of our employees extremely cautiously. The Secret Service provides security protection for the president and his family, and scores of its officers are posted around the executive mansion and its sprawling grounds. And everywhere else the president or every former president alive goes for the rest of their lives. Biden received Commander December 2021 as a gift from his brother James. The records released cover a fraction of his year and a half as... There's a bug in here somewhere. Just landed on my face, little bastard. Cover a fraction of his year and a half as a presidential pet. The family also has a cat named Willow. So, again, I mean, this is not the worst scandal in the world. It does raise into question again why. We've got two dogs in the official residence who have both done the same thing at this point. A lot of people can speculate and theorize, but in the end, I mean, it's for a dog trainer to figure out. From the Daily Wire, a little bit more here on the Bidens. We'll go for a little bit longer. 2/3 of voters and more than half of Democrats say Biden should step aside in 2024. From Joseph Curl. 2 out of 3 U.S. voters have declared that President Biden, 80, might be just a tad too mature to run in 2024. Americans think it's high time he step aside and let younger Democrats fight it out for the nomination, according to a new poll. The DailyMail.com/tip poll shockingly discovered that a whopping 67% of registered voters believe Biden, who's become quite the maestro of gaffes and falls, isn't up to the task mentally or physically to serve a second term. It seems Republicans aren't the only ones shaking their heads. Surprisingly, just 1/3 of Democrats think Biden should gear up for the 2024 race. A staggering 56% believe he should pack his bags, take a break, while another 10% just aren't sure about his prospects. Biden might already have 2 Democrat rivals jousting for his party's nomination. Yes, you heard that right. We're talking about lifestyle guru Marianne Williamson, hippie grandma, and the notorious anti-vaxxer Robert F. Kennedy Jr., though let's be honest, they might need a miracle to surpass Biden. But waiting eagerly in the wings are esteemed and sprightly younger Democrats who just might give Biden a run for his money against former President Trump, Ron DeSantis, or any Republican who manages to snatch the nomination. Of course, they're talking about Newsom, Whitmer, Kamala, and Pete Buttplug, who are already gaining attention as the future faces of the Democrat Party. Now, and again, I ask you, and they answered already, but they said younger people. Who? Let's go down who they announced here. Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom could be a governor in any far-left state that he wanted. California, Illinois, Michigan at this point. He could probably... maybe. I'm not going to say probably. I could say he could possibly pull it off here in Wisconsin, given the fact that we elect our statewide races in Madison and Milwaukee. But that one actually would be a little bit tight. I think Milwaukee might sink him. But Illinois, oh, absolutely. Michigan, probably. Virginia, that depends on how Youngkin does. New Mexico, absolutely. Oregon, oh, hell yes. Washington, absolutely. Gavin Newsom cannot win. He cannot temper himself enough with the proven track record of running to the far, far left in California to win the general. Whitmer. cannot win a general. Again, any stronghold out there, she can go back in and win in a deep, deep blue stronghold. Whitmer would actually fare a little bit better here than Newsom would, because of the union vote and her being more friendly to that. Whitmer cannot win a national race. Kamala Harris can't win a primary. She exited at 1% of the polling in the primary when Tulsi Gabbard sharpened her claws into her. And Pete Buttigieg is just too mired in scandal. If Pete Buttigieg runs, all anybody has to say is Ohio. East Palestine, Ohio. And he's done. So who can win? Who can pull the central command, hit the corporate Dems, and also pull independent and Republican votes out? And I don't think any of those four people. Honestly, I think Kennedy has a better chance of doing it. But he's been so mired by anti-far left propaganda that he can't get through the primary either. I think Kennedy actually holds, honestly, the best chance in the general, and this knowing that he's got that known speech impediment. Because he's got the union side, he's got the legacy Kennedy side, and he does toe a lot of their party line, the anti-gunnery, the medical mandate, etc. He's very much a Democrat's Democrat. But it's an interesting statistic nonetheless. And speaking of Biden, I'm going to do this one, then we're going to go ahead and talk about Bronny James, and then we're going to head out of here for the day. Speaking of Biden, note cards and shorter stairs. How Biden's campaign is addressing his age. So, can we just admit the fact that he's too old and too addled to do this yet? From Carol E. Lee, Peter Nicholas, and Monica Alba. The president tripping and falling is never a good movement in the throes of a re-election campaign, but when the president is 80 and already faces concerns he's too old for another term, it's something of a crisis. Biden's aides realized they had a problem last month when the president tripped over a sandbag hard at the Air Force Academy's graduation ceremony. Afterwards, during a post-event recap, few aides tried to figure out what may have gone wrong and how to make sure that such an embarrassing and dangerous incident never happens again. Well, again, one of the things that I pointed out with Biden is he tries to pretend he's still in his 40s and 50s and be spry and I'm going to go jog everywhere, man. Look how healthy I am. And he doesn't focus on where he's going. A lot of the problems that Biden's been having with tripping would go away if he acted his age. We'd have other conversations, obviously, but if he acted his age and said, okay, I gotta walk a little bit more carefully, man. I can't just jog up the stairs to Air Force One. Because I tripped, because I tried to take him too fast. We wouldn't have the famous Donkey Kong video of Donkey Kong at the top of Air Force One throwing barrels down at him. Which is hilarious, by the way. I almost want to watch that now. Is it this one? No, that's the trip itself. I want the edited version. There it is. I found it. That's the one. That never gets old. Then he goes to the top and he tries to jog back in there. Like, oh, look how spry I am, even though I fell down. Yeah, a lot of that would be eliminated if he just stopped trying to do that. He wouldn't have tripped over the sandbag if he was, again, taking it easy and watching where he was going. But he's got to come back out and pretend that he's 40 years old. Biden's answer to voters who question whether he's up to the rigors of a second term is simple. Hey, watch me, man! And then he goes and trips again. The trouble is, his voters are watching, and what they're seeing is hardening impressions. That it's time for him to step aside. Polling shows, apart from being the most taxing job in the world, stage, the presidency is also the most public, and signs of advancing age are tough to miss. Apparent to anyone paying attention is that Biden, they may remember from the Robert Bork Supreme Court confirmation hearings of '87 or the vice presidential debate with Sarah Palin in '08, is a different man than today. His gait is less steady. His speech is not as fluid. He's confused Iraq with Ukraine and Rolling Fork, Mississippi with Rolling Stone. At a conference last year, he looked out at the audience and called for a congresswoman who had recently died in a car crash. Faced with life's unbending reality, no one gets any younger. Biden's advisors have been trying to blunt the concerns about his age since his 2020 campaign, where they literally stuck him in the basement so he wouldn't say something stupid. I will add, the challenge gets trickier by the day as the oldest president in history embarks on one last race against a Republican Party eager to pounce at every miscue. Physically, he's quite frail and he falls off his bicycle or whatever, said former Western diplomat. Speaking on condition of anonymity to talk more freely, he doesn't have the stamina levels of an Obama or a younger president. People worry about his physical frailty and running from age 82 to 86. The age Biden would be at the end of his second term. This is really old by European standards and really, really old. We don't have anyone that age. Biden's advisors appear to be taking steps to minimize the job's physical toll, while simultaneously ramping up the twofold strategy to parlay an electoral weakness into strength. They're arguing that Republicans are merely recycling the argument that the now 77-year-old Trump made during the 2020 race. It's because they were true. And fell flat with voters, honk honk. They're noting that Biden's decades of experience have allowed him to score legislative victories that eluded younger predecessors such as Bill or Barack. In a preview of what voters will see more of Biden if Biden wins re-election and serves into his mid-80s, the White House seems to be making concessions to his age. An iconic image of the modern presidency is the chief executive walking up the stairs to the majestic Air Force One, then turning to the doorway and waving. More and more, Biden is foregoing the long staircase for the shorter stairway that takes him up through the plane's belly. A workaround of this sort isn't without precedent. Kennedy, who at the age of 43 was the youngest president ever elected, suffered chronic back pain and was once photographed using a cherry picker to hoist him aboard Air Force One. That would be something to see. Biden's use of the shorter staircase, which of course reduces the risk of a televised fall that goes viral, has more than doubled since Biden's tumble at the commencement ceremony, according to an analysis by NBC News. In the weeks prior to the tripping on stage, Biden used the shorter set of stairs to get on and off the presidential aircraft 37% of the time. In the past 7 weeks, he's used them 84% of the time, or 31 out of the 37 times he's gotten on and off the plane. Biden seems to be preserving his energy in other ways. It's customary in foreign trips for the president to schmooze with other leaders at dinners once the meetings are over, less formal and structured than the events preceding them. The dinners offer a chance for leaders to bond, talk through differences, or amplify a point. On 2 recent international trips, Biden has chosen to skip the nighttime socializing because they don't want him to say something stupid in front of the other dignitaries. When asked about the dinners, White House aides said his absence had nothing to do with fatigue, which is right. They said Biden must tend to domestic issues many time zones away, even when he's overseas. No, it's so he doesn't say anything stupid. Dude, the dude is old. And he's losing it. And they're starting to come back out with confirmation of the fact that the dude is old and he's losing it. Alright, and we will move some of the rest of this government stuff until tomorrow. But I did want to talk about this one today before we head out here for the day. And that is Bronny James. From The Athletic to start with. Bronny James suffers cardiac arrest at practice in stable condition. And I do hope that it gets better. I do, and it looks like he's going to. Realize I don't have live chat up here. You guys are shy tonight. Come on, let's get rip roaring here. Let's see. From Shams Charania. USC freshman Bronny James, the son of Lakers star LeBron, is in stable condition after suffering a cardiac arrest while practicing Monday. A James family spokesperson confirmed to The Athletic in a statement Tuesday. TMZ first reported the news. James, 18, collapsed during a practice and was taken to the hospital, according to the statement. He's no longer in the ICU, the family spokesperson said. Medical staff was able to treat Bronny and take him to the hospital, the spokesperson said. He's now in stable condition and no longer in the ICU. We ask for respect and privacy for the James family, and we will update media when there is more information. LeBron and Savannah wish to publicly send their deepest thanks and appreciation to the USC medical and athletic staff for their incredible work and dedication to the safety of their athletes. Damar Hamlin, by the way, that was the name I was looking for at the top of the show. And we've got a little update on this from ESPN as well. Bronny James out of the ICU following cardiac arrest. Bronny James, the eldest son of LA Lakers star LeBron James, suffered cardiac arrest on Monday and is in stable condition. Yesterday, while practicing, Bronny suffered a cardiac arrest, a James family spokesperson said in a statement. Medical staff was able to treat Bronny and take him to the hospital. He's now in stable condition and no longer in the ICU. We ask for respect and privacy for the James family. We will update the media when there's more information. The LA Fire Department confirmed through a spokesperson that it responded to a medical emergency involving an adult male at 9:26 a.m. Pacific Time Monday and sent paramedics to the Galen Center. When reached by ESPN, USC Athletics declined to comment on the situation, citing student privacy concerns, which is an important aspect of what they're doing. And they do make the comparison right away to Damar Hamlin right away. To which I will say, the first thing we should be doing is not coming out and condemning a vaccine. There is no definitive evidence that this was a vaccine-related injury. Now, there are statistics upon statistics upon statistics, and I probably said way too much for YouTube, where people will probably jump to that conclusion, as we'll see from Elon Musk. In fact, we'll put it there, right here. Elon Musk tweeting out. In response to Chief Nerd saying yesterday while practicing, Bronny James suffered a cardiac arrest. We know that story already. Elon Musk says, well, we cannot ascribe everything to the vaccine, but by the same token, we cannot ascribe nothing. Myocarditis is a known side effect. The only question is whether it is rare or common. And we can argue and debate about this until the end of time. But the first thing that we do, and the first thing that I do immediately when I hear this, is I do say a prayer for Bronny James. I hope that he comes out okay. I do. We'll figure out why after the fact, after they get him up and on his feet. And I understand that Bronny James would probably not have the same respect back out for me. Evil right-winger. Conspiracy theorist. I hope he dies. From insert something here if I ever were to be hospitalized. And famous enough to catch his attention. But the first thing that we do, just like we did with Damar Hamlin, is make sure that he's okay and safe. And then, yeah, we can sit back and debate until the end of time why there are so many people under 30 that are having this. But safety is first, above and beyond. So that's my 2 cents on that, and I do hope he gets better. And I do hope that we do have that debate after he gets better. It's another piece of statistic that can go into the argument for that. But first and foremost, get the kid back out, enjoying his time with his family. And with that, we're done for the day for the news. We'll catch up with some of the rest of this here tomorrow, during things I like and things that I hate. Plus, no, today's only Tuesday, isn't it? Why did I think it was Wednesday? No idea. Anyway, we'll catch up more on this tomorrow after we talk about something I'm thankful for, which I've got a good one for that. I had it all prepped up, but no, today is Tuesday, so we do the rules of acquisition on Tuesday. Wow, where's my mind right now? Alright, so on Tuesday nights, we finish out the program looking at the Ferengi rules of acquisition. The Ferengi, a fictitious species in the Star Trek universe, who are known to be ultra-capitalistic, which is why they caught my attention. They have a series of rules or commandments to live by, and if you live by these rules, you go on to the Divine Treasury at the end of life and get to bid on a new life based on the amount of capital you collected through life by following these rules. Every week we look at one of these rules. We look at how it is used in the program, how it can be used for the Ferengi species, but also because, and this, I always say this every week, this is so surprising, with Roddenberry being such an avowed communist, and these rules being intended to mock and not be realistic about capitalism, how actually applicable they are to capitalism. So we look at how most of them can be used in real life. Some of them we can't. Some of them obviously we can't use in real life. But how most of them can be and how we can apply them to our everyday life. We are in the 200s. We did a really good one last week, the 208th rule of acquisition. And I actually thought of some more life experience that I could use just for the idea sometimes the only thing more dangerous than a question is the answer. But we'll move on. There's no 209th, 210th, or 211th. 209th or 210th rule of acquisition. So we move on to the 211th, which is not one that we can necessarily use. This is one of the actual mocking ones that makes fun of capitalism. But we will use it. And I'll even rebut it a little bit as we talk about this here. The 211th rule of acquisition says employees are the rungs on the ladder to success. Don't hesitate to step on them. Dude, if you do that, you will not have employees for very long. Now, as far as quarks go, the rule of acquisition and what Ferengi were supposed to use it for, they were supposed to be cornering on markets where people and employees didn't really have any place else to go and work. So it's either come in and do the work or don't eat. Even though even on Deep Space Nine, where Quarks was, where Quark actually was the one that said this, in the episode where the bar employees tried to form a union, which is strictly against Ferengi Code of Commerce, letting your employees form a union. He cited the 211th rule of acquisition. Employees are the rungs on the ladder to success. Don't hesitate to step on them. Again, don't step on your employees, because that will turn out very bad for you, and you will wind up doing all of the work yourself. That is a bad thing to do. Especially, again, right now, where people have so many other places to go to work. But even if they don't, rather than being stepped on by you, and I might be a bad Ferengi at this point. You don't know how big my ears are under here. I might be a bad Ferengi at this point because I will say, no, you do need to treat your employees with definite care and make sure that they're there and their successes are your successes. That's one of the things that I say around my job, and I'm not even in management around my job. But I look at the people I work with and I remind them that their successes are my successes too. And they're my boss's successes. Our successes are his successes. And I want to see them thrive. I want to see them do well, both in sales and also in wages and everything else, and in home life. Because it is. They're not the rungs on the ladder to success. But they definitely can put the hands out and say, hey, let me help you up there. So, that's one that we counter against. 211th rule of acquisition. That's what's going to keep me out of the divine treasury, definitely. But, with that, we're out of here. Boomboxes saying some stuff that I can't say on YouTube, which I think is probably why he moved over to Rumble to say it as well. Which, thank you, Boomboxes, I do appreciate that. Very much do appreciate that. Because there are certain medical procedures that you can't say on YouTube, and I think I actually delved way too far into that. I might get a misinformation suspension tomorrow. But it's fine, we have a backup channel. Alright, let's finish up here. Let's head out of here. I still can't believe I thought it was Wednesday already. And I would have gone on to something I'm thankful for, too. Without thinking about it. We got another good track on the playlist that I like. Right as we're getting ready to turn on the outro music. Something from the Overwatch soundtrack, if I remember correctly, which I've never played. I hear a lot of people sing its praises, but I've never actually played Overwatch. The world could use more heroes is what the track is called, but this track doesn't actually have a name. It comes from the great Stephen Ignoramus, and it will sign us out of here for the night. Alright, so thank you everybody who came by and chatted, hung out. Well, we didn't have a lot of chat tonight, but everybody who still came out, the lurkers are welcome too. I always welcome you guys in here. And also the people who are going to be listening back to this in the future, both on the audio platform and on the replays. We'll be back here tomorrow at 6, I promise. I know I got a little behind today because, well, you saw the stack. I made the joke at the top of the show. I've got 50 tabs to go through, and then once I'm done with all that asset, then we've got to read the news. But yeah, we got a lot done today, so definitely happy with where this turned out. And we'll be back here tomorrow. We will cover some more of this, some of the stuff that we had left over, on top of what's happening in the news going forward, because I'm sure there's, especially with McCarthy saying it, there's going to be a lot more impeachment news. There's probably going to be something coming out about the Donald, and they're going to try to shift the conversation there. I know that some of the X users have been trying to do that today as well, but we'll see what happens. Come back and join me here, and we'll see what happens in the next 22 hours. And take care. Have some dinner, hug your family, or Boombox's cases, have some breakfast, and we will see you here tomorrow for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. And until tomorrow, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.